They look vintage, sound bold, and promise old-school charm, but what you're really getting is a garage queen with endless issues. Here's the ugly truth behind why these brands flop, and if the last brand's sitting in your garage, it's time to sell it, fast.
Number 7. Harley-Davidson. For years, riders dreamed of owning a Harley-Davidson. The name itself stood for freedom, thunder, and raw American muscle. But when entry-level models like the Street 500 and Street 750 started appearing in showrooms, the excitement didn't last long. These were meant to bring new riders into the Harley fold, but for many they turned into a costly disappointment. The Street 500 features a liquid-cooled V-twin engine with a displacement of 494 cubic centimeters. It produces 34 horsepower and 32 pound-feet of torque. The Street 750 steps up to 749 cubic centimeters, pushing out around 53 horsepower and 47 pound-feet of torque. Both bikes use a 6-speed transmission and weigh in at roughly 503 pounds for the Street 500 and 514 pounds for the 750. The braking system is basic, with single-disc brakes on both ends, and suspension includes a telescopic fork up front and dual shocks in the rear. The starting price sits around $7,699 depending on location.
But that lower price came with serious compromises. Riders quickly noticed the lack of refinement in both build and finish. Fit and finish issues appeared early, with reports of loose bolts, thin paint, and rattling components even before the first service interval. The lean profile of these models was meant to appeal to urban commuters and new riders. But instead, many found themselves dealing with awkward ergonomics and uncomfortable seating that made long rides a chore rather than a joy. Vibrations at highway speeds were another major complaint, particularly on the Street 750, where engine buzz through the pegs and bars made even short freeway stints feel tiring. Performance-wise, neither bike lived up to the Harley legacy. Acceleration was underwhelming, with throttle response described as sluggish and inconsistent. Riders who expected the deep torquey pull of a traditional Harley found instead a flat power band that struggled under load, especially when riding two up. On top of that, the handling dynamics didn't inspire much confidence. The geometry leaned towards stability, which is fine for cruising but didn't translate well in tight urban traffic or cornering scenarios. The result was a bike that felt stuck in the middle, neither a nimble city commuter nor a comfortable long hauler. Then there's the resale value, which became one of the biggest pain points for owners. These entry-level models depreciated faster than expected, often fetching thousands less on the second-hand market, even with low mileage. Part of that came from the fact that many dealerships stopped pushing them after a few years due to poor sales. Support for aftermarket parts and accessories also lagged, leaving owners with fewer customization options than other models in the Harley lineup. Combine that with a weak presence in rider communities and meetups, and many street model owners reported feeling like outsiders in the very culture they thought they were buying into. If Harley's budget bikes feel like a bait and switch, the next brand is even worse. It's barely clinging to the US market at all. We've done the research, and these brands are falling short in more ways than one. Do any of these brands surprise you? Let us know in the comments. And if you're looking for more insights into the bikes you should avoid, hit that subscribe button.
Number 6. Hyosung. It is easy to forget that Hyosung was once seen as a rising challenger in the entry-level motorcycle market. For a short stretch during the early 2010s, this South Korean brand appeared poised to offer real alternatives to more expensive Japanese bikes. They had bold designs, accessible pricing, and aggressive marketing. But behind that promise was a much darker truth, one that became painfully clear to riders after the sale was made. Consider one of Hyosung's most well-known models, the GV250. It came equipped with a 249 cubic centimeter V-twin engine, delivering roughly 26 horsepower and 15 pound-feet of torque. Weighing around 370 pounds and offering a seat height of 27 inches, it was aimed squarely at new riders. Braking was handled by a single front disc and rear drum, while suspension included telescopic front forks and dual shock absorbers in the rear. The bike was designed to look like a miniature cruiser, sleek enough to attract attention but simple enough to maintain, and it sold for just under $4,000.
But those initial specs only told part of the story. Once riders put serious miles on these bikes, problems started surfacing. Quickly. Paint faded after just one summer in the sun. Rust developed on the fasteners and exhaust system. The wiring harnesses were inconsistent, sometimes causing electrical shorts or failing turn signals. Plastic trim was brittle, poorly fitted, and easily cracked. Even the instrument cluster, which was meant to be a highlight, was known to fog up or stop working entirely in humid weather. Service and support made things worse. Hyosung's dealer network in the United States was always thin, but over time it nearly vanished. If a part failed, which was common, getting a replacement became an exercise in patience. Some riders reported waiting 6 to 12 weeks for even basic components like brake levers or side panels. Others were told their parts were discontinued altogether. As a result, many Hyosung owners ended up with bikes that sat unused in garages, awaiting repairs that never came. The resale market was even more brutal. Riders looking to trade or sell their Hyosung quickly learned how little these bikes held their value. Even low-mileage units in great cosmetic condition were often rejected by dealerships. Private buyers, familiar with the brand's reputation, avoided them entirely unless the price was rock bottom. Compared to entry-level models from Honda, Yamaha, or Kawasaki, Hyosung's depreciation was staggering. A bike that cost $4,000 new could be worth less than $1,000 after just 2 seasons of light use. The core issue wasn't the design or even the ride quality. It was trust. Riders never felt confident in the longevity of these machines. There were no long-term updates, no product refinements, and very little brand communication. It felt like the company had no real plan to grow or improve, and eventually, they didn't. By the late 2020s, Hyosung was practically invisible in the American market. But at least Hyosung never pretended to be premium. The next brand sold itself on elite engineering and failed spectacularly. The bikes might disappoint, but your gear shouldn't. We've listed trusted helmets, gloves, and must-have tools in the description. Number 5. BMW Motorrad Low-End Series. For decades, BMW Motorrad built its reputation on precision, luxury, and mechanical excellence. But as the motorcycle market shifted and demand grew for more affordable entry-level models, even this German powerhouse tried to compete at the bottom end of the spectrum. The result was a set of bikes that might wear the BMW badge but didn't carry the refinement, durability, or ride quality that made the brand legendary in the first place. One of the most well-known examples is the G310R and its sibling, the G310GS. These bikes are powered by a 313 cubic centimeter single-cylinder engine that produces approximately 34 horsepower and about 21 pound-feet of torque. They feature a 6-speed gearbox, a steel tubular frame, and a basic braking system made up of a single front disc with a 4-piston caliper and a single rear disc with a single piston caliper. Suspension includes a non-adjustable 41mm front fork and a rear monoshock with preload adjustability. The G310R weighs in at 364 pounds, while the GS is slightly heavier at just under 400 pounds. The entry price for both sits around $5,295, depending on trim and region. On paper, these numbers look promising for a lightweight urban commuter or beginner-friendly adventure bike. But owners quickly learned that numbers do not tell the full story. Throttle response on both models is often described as jerky or unpredictable, especially at low speeds. This makes parking lot maneuvers or tight turns more difficult than they should be for a motorcycle aimed at new riders. Many users have reported stalling issues when rolling on the throttle, even in neutral or at idle. These aren't one-off issues. They've shown up repeatedly across rider forums and dealer reports. Another letdown is build quality. While the BMW name conjures expectations of solid materials and premium fit, the G310 series feels surprisingly plasticky. panels rattle, bolts loosen, and surface corrosion can appear far earlier than expected, especially if the bike is stored outside. Paint quality is average at best, and electrical components such as the digital instrument cluster have been known to glitch or reset without warning. Some owners even reported problems with the clutch cable fraying or snapping under normal use, a basic mechanical issue that should never occur on a new motorcycle from a major manufacturer. Serviceability is also proven problematic. Because these bikes are often built in collaboration with overseas partners, parts availability can vary wildly by region. Some dealerships lack technicians trained to handle these low-end models, leading to frustrating delays and inconsistent service experiences. And because these bikes target the budget-conscious segment, most riders are less tolerant of prolonged downtime or unexpected repair costs. The final blow comes with long-term ownership. Depreciation is steep for these models. Resale value drops quickly after the first year, especially once mileage climbs past 10,000. Riders who initially believed they were getting a budget version of a BMW quickly realized they were getting a budget bike with a premium logo. That disconnect between expectation and reality has caused many to move on from the brand entirely, opting for more reliable alternatives from Japanese manufacturers that consistently deliver quality and dependability at the same price point.
Number 4. Ducati entry-level nightmares. Some bikes are designed to spark emotion the moment you lay eyes on them. The lines, the exhaust note, the brand, it all feels iconic. That's the image Ducati has built for decades, but for buyers stepping into the brand through its entry-level models, especially the Scrambler series, reality hits differently. What should be a gateway into Italian performance ends up being a gateway to ownership headaches and mechanical anxiety. Take the Scrambler Icon, one of Ducati's most widely sold entry-level bikes in recent years. It comes equipped with an air-cooled 1103 cubic centimeter V-twin engine, producing approximately 86 horsepower and 65 pound-feet of torque. The suspension features Kayaba 41mm upside-down forks in the front and a preload adjustable monoshock in the rear. Stopping power comes from a single 330mm disc with a 4-piston Brembo caliper up front and a 245mm disc in the rear. With a curb weight of 454 pounds and a seat height of 31.4 inches, it's light enough to appeal to new riders. The price? It starts at around $10,995.
All of that sounds like a strong deal, but the mechanical issues begin early and often. Owners frequently report problems with the bike's electronics. The instrument cluster has been known to malfunction, freeze, or show ghost warnings. Faulty sensors, misfires in the traction control system, and dashboard glitches occur even with low mileage. One of the most repeated complaints is related to overheating. Riders describe uncomfortable engine heat around the thighs even during short rides, something that becomes unbearable in summer months and stop-and-go traffic. Beyond electronics, many Scrambler owners experience reliability problems with the fueling system. Reports of inconsistent idle, throttle hesitation, and sudden surges are common. While Ducati claims fuel mapping has improved with newer models, real-world ownership still paints a frustrating picture. These bikes often require regular updates and tuning that aren't always covered under standard maintenance packages. Then there's the cost of keeping it running. Basic services on a Ducati are not cheap, and the entry-level bikes don't get a pass. Even oil changes and valve adjustments can run higher than most comparable Japanese models. Parts availability varies dramatically depending on location, and dealership support is inconsistent, especially outside of major urban markets. While Ducati aims to offer a premium experience, the reality is that support for their more affordable bikes often feels like an afterthought. The build quality is also a point of concern. Owners mention loose plastics, paint quality that fades under sunlight, and hardware that rusts sooner than expected. Even the turn signals and mirrors, parts most riders forget about, have been known to loosen or fail within a year of ownership.
Resale value tells its own story. While the Ducati badge may look great in your garage, it doesn't hold up as well in the used market, especially for the Scrambler range. depreciation hits harder than expected. Many owners trying to sell their bikes just a year or two later find that the market isn't willing to pay even half of what they did new. The emotional appeal wears off fast once the maintenance bills start piling up.
Ducati might still win hearts, but our next brand barely wins sympathy, because its biggest flaw is that no one knows if it'll even be around next year.
Number 3. CF Moto. Some motorcycles look great from across the parking lot. Bold styling, aggressive angles, and a price tag that seems too good to pass up. That's exactly how CF Moto managed to carve out its space in the American motorcycle market. With bright paint, digital dashboards, and muscular frames, their bikes turned heads. But many riders who gave them a chance discovered the shine faded fast, and what was left behind was frustration, confusion, and a pile of repair receipts.
Take the CF Moto 650 NK as an example. It is powered by a 649 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine that produces approximately 61 horsepower and 43 pound-feet of torque that puts it right in the middle of the midweight naked sport category. The braking system includes dual front discs with radial mount calipers and a single rear disc. The suspension features an upside-down telescopic fork in the front and a rear monoshock, both of which are non-adjustable. It weighs around 450 pounds and sits at a seat height of 31 inches. With a starting price of $6,499, it tempts budget-conscious buyers looking for style and specs that rival the big names. However, many owners quickly discover that the real price of owning a CF Moto is paid in time, not money. Quality control is inconsistent. Bolts loosen prematurely. Paint begins to chip after a single season. Electrical gremlins are common. Dashboards flicker, check engine lights appear for no reason, and sensors misread fuel levels or speed. The engine may sound healthy at idle, but hesitation during acceleration or hiccups at higher RPMs are well-documented complaints. These aren't minor annoyances. They're problems that reduce confidence every time the key turns. One of the biggest frustrations comes when something actually goes wrong. And it will. CF Moto's parts distribution in the United States is limited. Riders often report waiting weeks, sometimes months, for basic replacement components. And while some dealerships offer support, the network is sparse and scattered, meaning long drives or shipping fees just to get a qualified mechanic. Even warranty coverage is a mixed bag. Some owners report seamless fixes, others say their claims were denied or ignored entirely. The resale market doesn't help either. While a new CF Moto might catch a buyer's eye, used models lose their value quickly. Private buyers are wary, and most dealers refuse to accept them on trade-in. Forums and classifieds are filled with listings from frustrated owners looking to offload a low-mileage bike that spent more time in the garage than on the road. All of this is a shame, because there's no denying that CF Moto bikes look the part. They seem like the perfect starter machine for someone who doesn't want to spend $8,000 to $10,000 on a brand name equivalent. But the reality is that the savings up front rarely make up for the stress that follows. Whether it's questionable electronics, rough ride quality, or delays in parts availability, CF Moto proves that flashy design doesn't make up for inconsistent execution. But what happens when a company is too expensive to fail and still ends up letting everyone down?
Number 2. Buell. There was a time when Buell motorcycles carried the spark of American innovation. Founded with a rebellious spirit and later adopted into the Harley-Davidson family, the brand carved out a niche for riders who wanted something different. Something lighter, faster, and more aggressive than traditional cruisers. But the collapse of the original Buell brand in 2009 marked what many assumed was the end of that chapter. Surprisingly, it wasn't. In the years that followed, the Buell name would be revived, rebranded, and reimagined, but none of it is translated into true market success.
Take one of their most recent models, the Hammerhead 1 1909. It boasts an 1,195 cubic centimeter V twin engine, pushing out 185 horsepower and around 101 pound-feet of torque. It features a perimeter front brake rotor with an 8-piston caliper, an inverted 43mm fork, and a monoshock rear suspension. The dry weight comes in just under 430 pounds, and pricing hovers around $18,000 depending on the trim and finish. On paper, it's a performance monster, especially by American standards. But for all that power, the market reaction has been lukewarm at best. The trouble with Buell isn't performance, it's identity. This is a brand that has returned from the grave more times than most riders can count. First, it was shut down by Harley-Davidson. Then came Eric Buell Racing, which failed due to financial instability. Now the name lives again under a completely different leadership, but without the same energy, resources, or direction. There's no dealership network, no strong parts distribution, and no real brand communication. Riders are often left wondering who exactly Buell is for. For those who have tried to commit to the brand post-revival, the ownership experience has been rocky. Long lead times for parts, a lack of authorized service centers, and poor customer support have plagued the company's return. Riders with technical questions are often forced to rely on forums, private mechanics, or sheer trial and error. Even the most loyal Buell enthusiasts admit that buying one of these bikes today is a gamble, not a plan. Marketing has not helped. Promotional material emphasizes power and aggression, but rarely explains where or how owners can ride, service, or support the product. Models are announced, then delayed. Website updates appear infrequently, and the social media presence often feels more like a side project than a serious effort to build trust or expand the brand. Without consistent communication, buyers are left uncertain. Never a good feeling when investing close to $20,000 in a machine with virtually no nationwide support. Resale value also suffers. Because so few Buell motorcycles are sold and because support is inconsistent, the used market is volatile. One bike might fetch $10,000 in pristine condition. Another, identical on paper, might sit unsold for months. It's the kind of unpredictability that turns off most riders, especially those who want more than just a weekend toy. The result is a company that feels more like a hobbyist brand than a legitimate motorcycle manufacturer. While the engineers behind the bikes continue to push the limits of power and handling, the business around them remains underdeveloped and unstable. Riders want to believe in the comeback story. They want to see Buell succeed, but belief isn't enough to power a brand, and hype cannot replace infrastructure. After going through these brands and their issues, it's clear that some bikes are best left off your list. Have you ever owned any of these models? Drop a comment below and share your experience. Don't forget to subscribe for more detailed breakdowns. And now we reach the final brand. A name with serious cult following, massive hype, and an equally massive letdown. Number 1. Royal Enfield. There is something undeniably magnetic about the way a Royal Enfield looks when it's parked. The classic tank, upright seating posture, and unmistakable thump of the exhaust pipe capture the spirit of motorcycling's golden era. From the moment you see it, the bike evokes images of cross-country freedom, dusty highways, and simpler times. But once the key turns and miles begin to build, that charm starts to wear off quickly. And what's left underneath is a machine that demands more patience than performance. The Royal Enfield Classic 350 is one of the most recognized models in the lineup. It is powered by a single-cylinder, air-cooled engine displacing 349 cubic centimeters, producing approximately 20 horsepower and about 19 pound-feet of torque. The bike weighs around 430 pounds with a seat height of 31.7 inches. Braking duties are managed by a front and rear disc setup with dual-channel anti-lock braking. Suspension includes telescopic forks up front and twin gas-charged shock absorbers in the rear. The price starts at just over $4,500, making it one of the more affordable bikes in the cruiser segment. But for many owners, the riding experience turns sour not long after leaving the dealership. The engine, while nostalgic in tone, produces an unsettling level of vibration, especially at higher speeds. Hands go numb. Mirrors blur out. Riders report loose bolts and rattling parts after just a few thousand miles. In an era where most manufacturers have found ways to minimize mechanical harshness, Royal Enfield seems to celebrate it, and not in a good way. Durability remains another major concern. Issues with wiring, sensors, and basic build materials are common. Paint can fade prematurely, seat stitching begins to fray, and plastics degrade faster than expected, particularly in regions with strong sun or fluctuating weather. And while many of these issues are cosmetic, some are far more serious, like electrical shorts or misfiring under load, which can compromise safety. Service support in the United States adds another layer of frustration. Royal Enfield has a limited dealer network compared to the bigger players like Harley-Davidson or Honda. Getting parts can be a waiting game, and not every mechanic is comfortable working on these bikes due to their unique quirks and build practices. Warranty coverage may exist on paper, but getting meaningful help can be a hit-or-miss affair, especially in more remote areas. Riders who purchase a Royal Enfield often do so out of love for its aesthetics and heritage, but many find themselves spending more time tinkering in the garage than riding on the road. And those who attempt to resell their bikes are met with a harsh reality. Resale values are poor. While the bike looks vintage, its mechanical realities and reputation for unreliability quickly shrink its value in the used market. A Royal Enfield that cost over $4,500 new may fetch less than half that in just 2 years, depending on condition and mileage. We've revealed the brands that are causing more headaches than joy. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay informed about the bikes that could save you time and money.